Alright, let's review another series of games. This is from the 2023 tournament. It recently happened. It was HF and GrizzlyOne. This was somewhere in the early stages of the elimination. So really, obviously both of these players are really good, S tier, but only one can go through. And given that G1 has been training a lot over the years and HF's kind of taken more of a kind of backseat, kind of relaxing and playing more for fun, this is the kind of series where we thought, okay, it'll be close, but GrizzlyOne should take it. But actually what happened in the end was sort of a series of unfortunate situations that ended up in GrizzlyOne losing. And kind of quite famously for the time, he took it pretty badly. He had deleted the VOD, left the Discord, and then we got him back in, and he finished. He did pretty well. He got through to the end. He actually beat HF on the next meeting, so there was like a nice redemption arc to it. But it was quite a sort of standout moment from that tournament in terms of the drama, or like the interesting storylines from how it went. So I thought we could take a look at this series of games. It was just 2 matches. It was a best of 3. And HyperFighter won both of these. So yeah, let's take a look. Because I think it's useful to break it down, because obviously it does suck to lose, especially in a tournament, especially in a matchup where you're feeling that you've got the edge against the opponent. And it can be really hard to process why you lost, especially when it's like a really shitty memory for you. But yeah, we can all learn from even the worst moments. So let's take a look. Let's see what happened. So yeah, best of 3, game 1, Grand Theft. This is the original Grand Theft before we made changes to it. It's CCA, and GrizzlyOne went as Black Dogs, which is, I mean, yeah, you could say, okay, going Black Dogs is risky, but I mean, they're still strong. They have all the tools that you need. So definitely we can look at the decisions that led up to the mistake that lost the game for him. So a standard. Let's not keep the volume not too loud. So a standard opener from HyperFighter. I'm going to try not to comment too much on HF, because this is more for sort of breaking down why GrizzlyOne lost. I don't want to be patronising either, because HyperFighter is very, very experienced. He probably knows how he could play better. And I don't want this video to take forever as well, because it's a 23-minute video, but this will probably take me like double that to say what I want to say. Okay, so about 2 minutes in, we've got some fighting. HyperFighter gets the walker early. That's kind of a staple of his gameplay. You'll notice in this game, HF goes with a very specific build combination. And this combination is one of the main reasons why he wins. He goes walker first, then multiple APCs, at least 3. Then when his opponent tries to counter APC, he then brings out bombers, because APC on APC is a decent counter, especially with the golems up. APC is a great choice. But when he brings out the bombers, that then counters that, so pretty good build decisions. So the first significant decision of the match is that GrizzlyOne is going really quickly, really early to take east of mid at almost 3 minutes in. Now this becomes quite significant when we know from the end what happened, from retrospect, this decision. So if you come into mid quickly and you want to go for east mid, you're going to have to probably leave some scrap behind so that you can get this one quicker. It's a good decision. It's more important to take the scrap here than here through a concept of what I call scrap in contention, which I'm going to do a whole video on, but basically there's the idea of not all scrap is equal, I guess you could say. Scrap that's closer to mid or closer to your opponent, or further away from you, is more important to take because you can take it off them. But yeah, I will do a proper video explaining that and showing maps where it applies. But this is what he's doing. He's going for the silo. And in order to get this silo, he's not got the scrap here, just before mid, south. And that's going to play an important factor into what happened. So HF is free to go in now and take these out, because he has a golem right here, or here, it's one of these. So GrizzlyOne feels as though he can't really fight. He has to, if HF wants to go around and take this, he has to kind of let him do it because of the walker. But he has a rocket tank, a tank and a scout. You could have probably fought the golem, because it's golem tank. You would probably lose everything, but you would at least bring that walker down to low ammo or to low hull and stop HF from taking the silo. But obviously you have to bear in mind that right now the scrap for the economy for GrizzlyOne is not very good yet, because he's gambled on this working. If he came into mid a little bit slower and took the back scrap, the southeast and southwest scrap, he would have more than enough right now in this moment to take this field properly with an army. Because HF, you'll notice he's not, well, obviously we don't know for sure, because maybe he would go for it, but it seems now he's only fighting here because GrizzlyOne went for it. He's responding to that decision rather than making a decision to go take this. Like I say, maybe HyperFighter would try to take this first if GrizzlyOne didn't, but I don't think so. I think he would just focus on getting walkers out and fighting through mid. So he loses this silo, and this is a significant setback because he's gambled a lot in this, GrizzlyOne. Constructor, silo, scav, he's gone for this. He didn't get really any of it, so he's lost that. That didn't work. That's 20 scrap that he's lost through not picking up, and then another. So constructor, silo, scav, another at least 16 scrap that's been lost on the attempt for the 20, which is not gained. Really good play on the walker. Just could probably come in earlier to stop HF from going here. Let's say that GrizzlyOne did attack quicker on the walker. He would have cleared it, and then he could come up behind HyperFighter, destroying the silo. And he may have been able to save the constructor and then rebuild a new silo. So the rocket tanks are out, but they're probably low on ammo. Takes an eject here. APC's coming out. So because GrizzlyOne is going rocket tank heavy, because of the walkers, for anti-walker, HF is going to go APC heavy to counter that, which is really awkward to play against, because these rocket tanks cannot do anything really against an APC. The Hornet lock takes too long, and you obviously need a bomber up or something to stop them. Black Dogs do not have a conventional bomber. Well, in this current moment, in SPP, they do. They have the rocket tank with rocket bombs, but in this version of the game, which was a couple of months ago, in I think February or January, the Black Dogs did not have anything with rocket bomb, so they were pretty weak to soldiers. Okay, so GrizzlyOne is trying to, constructor's going left to try and get the silo back again, get a new silo. That's the right decision. Try and take it back. Because all HF has is a walker and a couple of APCs. I suppose it's a good moment now to mention what to do against a golem player if someone is bringing them out early and putting them in a position where you cannot really take ground. Well, this rocket tank that died, it's died around here, and this is very much in the territory, this is in GrizzlyOne's territory. Even if scavengers come and pick it up and die, the scrap still drops and the walker runs out of ammo. So anything that you lose close to your base because of long range walker, it doesn't really matter because you can replace it. The only issue is that your pilots need to be stocked, because obviously if scrap is not the limiting factor because you can recover, then pilots will be because of losing scavs, losing tanks. That also is a key factor in what happened here, is the pilot issue. Okay, so the silo's down, that's good. But it is in quite a dangerous spot. I mean, well, it always would be. Maybe he could have sent the constructor deeper into this channel and then tried to hold to stop HF from doing what he did previously, stopping him from doing it again and then sending a scav in there. That could have been a better decision, but that's very time sensitive. Oh yeah, that's true. The Red Devil does have rocket bomb actually in this version, so there is, the Black Dogs still do and did have a unit that fires rocket bomb at this time. So that would have been a pretty decent anti-APC tool. If we see HF's unit list, it's very heavy on APC and Walker. A couple tanks here and there, a couple bombers here and there, but it's mostly the Walker APC combo, which is it's a classic. It's a very good CCA tactic. Okay, so GrizzlyOne is struggling to hold ground, likely because he's so limited in scrap. Because if we consider grand theft, you get 20 in spawn, you can get 20 on the rear path, well 40 for south spawn, they get a bit more, and then 20 on the way into mid and southeast of mid. He didn't get either of those two. I think he got southeast through passive scavenger, but he did not get the direct south scrap below the geysers, where there's the one geyser, because he wanted this. So if we imagine he's 20 scrap down from not taking the back south area, and then he's 20 scrap down on top of that because this initial silo attempt didn't work. And let's see, that scrap is still not yet recovered, and the scav is down. So we've got 20, we've got 40 of lost scrap. We've then got that initial constructor, which I think was recovered. Let's ballpark it and say 40-45 scrap lost from a decision to not take close south and play for east of mid, and then losing that play for east mid. That is a lot of scrap for this map. This is not a big scrap map, it's quite low. So that you're looking at about a third of your economy lost there. So scrap is low for GrizzlyOne, but pilots are also really low. So he's lost 16. A couple of those are buildings, a couple of those are constructors. I see one barracks and a factory. So we can be pretty sure that his pilots are really low at this point, either 0 or less than 3. This is quite a common thing that HyperFighter does, is he pushes in like this with wingmen on follow. It's an aggressive move because you're kind of violating the integrity of their base. But as we saw with the Caleb game that I uploaded yesterday, all it takes is a snipe on you and all your wingmen are going to feed. So that's something to look out for in terms of anti-player against this particular player. And he kind of pays for it. Okay, so the factory's gone down. The APCs have dropped. Sort of an overwhelming push. Just get in there, drop the APCs, cause chaos, and then win on the recovery. He loses a life here, so this is a way back in for GrizzlyOne. Anytime someone loses a life, it's a significant moment. It's very important to act quickly and to think, okay, how can I capitalize on this life loss? You see here at HyperFighter's offensive list, you've got 4 APCs, 1 walker, 1 bomber, 1 tank, so it's a very clear strategy he's going for here. So I mentioned briefly earlier anti-walker or anti-golem, so keep pilots up, let the golem destroy things as long as the things stay close to your side so you can recover. Keep stocking the pilots so you can replace scavengers and offensives. Drain the ammo out of the walker and then it can't do anything. Obviously also howitzers on any supplies that they attempt to build, you've got to howitzer the supplies. You can even howitzer the golem itself, it's pretty effective.
Yes, unit complete.
But what about APC? Well, obviously APC, you need to have a mortar in your tank. Black Dog tank does not start with a mortar. It has the hard point, but not the weapon in the slot. So you need to drop an armor. You need to get an armory to drop a mortar as quick as you can and not lose the tank. It's a good idea to consider dropping multiple mortars back somewhere safe, way back behind a recycler. Perhaps even around the corner. Drop some armory. Drop some mortars here to pick up if you lose your tank. Alternatively, you can play in a rocket tank, which has a mortar stock. But yeah, you need to be piloting something that has mortar, because you cannot trust your AI to kill soldiers. You have to be doing it yourself. As long as you can stay up in the field fighting, and you've got ammo, you can deal with soldiers without much issue. The issue is when you're ejected and they drop. That's when it's potentially a game-winning situation or a game-losing situation. And also, yeah, regular liberal use of thump on the golem is a good idea. Keep dropping thump, keep howitzering, go back for ammo, keep dropping thump. Get your mortars ready for the soldiers. Now you see that HF has completely kind of locked GrizzlyOne out of mid. He's got a silo to the east. It's not being used by a scav. Hang on. Look at that. There's still a lot of scrap here that he's being denied of. Also, bear in mind here, you see the south scrap has not been taken. That's a lot of scrap there that would have helped a lot if he got it. So in terms of decision making, like I say, GrizzlyOne says, okay, I'm going to go mid first. I'm going to get there really quick. I'm going to take the east scrap, and I'm going to have a scrap advantage because I'm going to have more than HyperFighter in the mid game. It's a good idea. It's a good plan. But what happens if he intercepts you, kills the silo, and he's got walkers in tow to stop you from going back? Well, you're going to have to quickly make the decision to go back for this scrap. Don't take a fight, stay passive. I'm talking about right at the start, before there's really been any fighting. You need to make it a quick decision, like 5 minutes in. Let's go back, let's get this, and then let's come out. Because that's 20 scrap. So double it for MP, that's 40. That's half an army. So you do need that scrap. That's not scrap that you can just leave. Okay, so he's got a decent army now. He still has enough tools to stay in the game. A lot of good damage on the player. GrizzlyOne's construct is very deep into mid. Yeah, obviously you don't want it this far up because it's such an easy pick for the golems. It also kind of gives the APCs something to drop on, because obviously when you're using APCs you need to target something, but if the opponent is keeping everything back out of range you can't use the APC. But if you leave something up front deploying, like a constructor or a scav, you give the opponent a way to get the soldiers out. So HyperFighter is just kind of hoping that his forward push is just going to eventually be so heavy and so powerful that it's just going to overwhelm. That's kind of really all that's going on here in terms of the thing. Well, the thinking is in the composition and the order of the build, but the strategy itself is quite simple. It's simply just to push in a straight line, linear attack, walkers up the front, APCs are dropped to sort of sow chaos into the situation, and to, in terms of his tank, picking off whatever's low and sometimes flying into the base to just sort of fuck with GrizzlyOne's control of the situation. You'll also notice that HF is not really building anything in terms of buildings. He's not really placing. He's got a silo, but he's not really placing supplies or hangars because you don't really need them, to be honest. You can just let things go in, run out of ammo, die, recover, replace, continue. You don't actually need those buildings, especially when this is such a close fight as well in Grand Theft. You know, no howitzers. There are no howitzers this game. You don't need them. Just simply push forward. Because if GrizzlyOne builds a howitzer, he loses precious time and resources on more tanks and things to slow down this forward push. And this can only be the case if an attack happens very early, because if it happens later on a map with a good amount of scrap, you'll get the full army, then you'll get your howitzers. If you attack before they have howitzers, before they have a full army, they can't really get howitzers because they're too busy building replacement units. Now, GrizzlyOne did die here. It's kind of, I think you can see it. Yeah, right. Right there. I guess he got ejected by the walker, and then a rocket bomb from the bomber hit at the same time, so he died instantly. So that's just really unlucky, that timing. All the scrap is far closer to GrizzlyOne than HyperFighter, so he has that on his side. The issue here is pilots, and this is something that he said. He said to me that he kept running out of pilots because the constructor kept getting picked off. Obviously, in retrospect, what you can do is just have the constructor doing barracks way back here, even inside this pocket here. Send the constructor back and keep dropping barracks back there. So the barracks are not going to help up front. They're not going to help with pilots, soldier replacement for the APCs. But that's not really the main purpose of them. The main purpose of them is to keep your pilots up. So get the constructor back, do barracks back here, get the pilots up to about 15. Then you're going to have the pilots to get the scrap. You get all that scrap, look how close it is, you get all that in, then you can just spam the hell out of offensives. Scout, rocket tank, APC, Comet Bomber, the Black Dog Comet Bomber will be really effective here right now. Because it's a fairly tight channel. You can target the silo, you can target the golems. I think even an APC is a decent lock time, but I'm not sure on that. But there it is. So, what happened in a summary? What happened is this scrap was not taken because GrizzlyOne wanted this scrap. So he took a gamble. He gambled for this. HF intercepted and stopped him. He then had a walker in to stop him from going back and recovering it. So he not only lost that 20, but he lost more on top. And he didn't go back to take the safe scrap. That should have been the backup plan. Go back and get this and then fight. He didn't go for that either. So that's the first main issue. The second issue is that his constructor kept dying because he was having it a bit too far up front. Bring it back, do barracks back here, get your pilots up, then your economy will recover by itself because you can afford to get the scavengers because you've got the pilots for it. You've got the scrap because HF is pushing very aggressively. He's not trying to control scrap, he's just trying to overwhelm. You can then take it off of him. And then with your pilots and your scrap, you can then spam offensives. The soldiers, the golem ammo will drain. The APC soldiers will be more likely to die from, explosions going on and stray bullets, stray cannon shots. and you would be able to clear what he's got. Because this is the end of the game here, let's consider what is HF's strength actually through the game. How strong does he get? Well, right before he pushes in, I mean, yeah, granted, GrizzlyOne loses a life at the worst possible time, which is, you know, it's just bad luck that happens. A bomber can sometimes instantly kill you on eject. It just does happen. He's got a walker, a bomber, a couple APCs, 2 walkers. That one's probably out of ammo or very near it. So he's not really at full strength. He's sort of half strength. He's just pushing in a straight line. Pilots are low. Scrap is low. If GrizzlyOne played it, and if you played it in a way where he went back for this 20 and he kept making his barracks back here, he would have offensives here. He'd have stuff up right now still. That would kill the bomber, because the bomber's terrible against wingmen in dogfights. It would kill the walker of low ammo, and his army would also probably kill the golem just behind, because it's one golem against an army, and it will die to that. Then you've got the player tank, and that's pretty much all he's really got to deal with. Alright, so closing thoughts on this game. HyperFighter did play pretty well. He played a strong CCA direct attack. He had a really good composition on the units. He was building quick. He was keeping up the pressure constantly. But he was not particularly caring so much about scrap. So there was just the one silo here. He came in. He didn't bother taking that when there was a chance, because he knew that the game was open for him to take right there. So yeah, I mean, it's very strong play from HyperFighter, but there were a series of decisions that GrizzlyOne made that definitely tipped it in the favour of his opponent. So yes, I mean, it's also worth mentioning that possibly the silo here and presumably the 2 scabs that were working the field may not have picked up the scrap back here. Now, we don't have GrizzlyOne's perspective to check, but that is possible, because through this whole game we can see just how broke GrizzlyOne is. He's really broke. So let's assume that he didn't actually get this, because that would make sense given how broke he was. So he's going to get 40. Sorry, no, it's going to get, well, yeah, it's going to get 20 in spawn, 20 from southeast that came passively, 20 from up here, and then if I recall correctly, I think there's 10 or 20 here. So it's 20, 40, 60, let's say 80. So double that for MP, it's 160. That's literally the bare minimum to get everything. And as he's black dogs, black dog build costs are higher, of course, because the scout is 2 scrap more, the tank is 4 scrap more, the factory is 2 scrap more. So there is definitely, we can definitely rule this game, like the reason why he lost, we can rule it down to just not enough scrap, and decisions for taking scrap did not go as planned. And then of course the barracks issue, the pilots issue, because we did see twice GrizzlyOne constructors really deep. Well, actually we could even say 4 times with the silo, 4 constructors that went deep into mid, or on the periphery of mid, just here on the periphery of the no man's land. They got picked off. That's 4 of them. That's a lot of scrap, and it's a bit too risky with the constructor, especially when obviously anti-CCA, playing against CCA in general, you need to have the pilot stocked up just to deal with the fact that your offensives are going to be effectively cannon fodder. Your scabs and your offensives are going to die to the golem. That's okay, as long as you have the pilots to replace. Now obviously GrizzlyOne does know this, so this is not a lecture on him. He knows this. This is more just basically reminding, and also for anyone watching who is a bit sort of not so clued up on how to play against a CCA. But the bottom line is you need pilots, and you need a lot of them, because your stuff's gonna die. You can recover the scrap, but your pilots, you need to be keeping on top of them.
Where's the power?
So
Set
onto
to
game
follow.
2, Moon War.
Where's the power? Set to follow. Where's the power?
HyperFighter has gone Black
Power.
Dogs.
Set to
Grizzly
follow.
One has gone back to
Where's the
NSDF
power?
because he knows
Set to follow.
that it's match point
Where's the power?
for HyperFighter. It's a
Set
best
to
of
follow.
3.
Where's the power?
So now let's revert back
Construction
to
started.
what we know is safe and reliable, which is the NSDF.
Building
We all know how to play, how to use them.
started.
We all know their strengths and weaknesses, so let's just stick with them. Let's reduce the number of potential factors and outliers that are going to cause us to lose in ways we don't intend to or don't anticipate for.
I'm on it. Recycler. Ready to move.
Okay.
I need started. Guys,
HyperFighter standard opener, so he silos the closed crater.
building complete.
He doesn't silo the other scrap field, which is fine, it's optional.
Started.
He drops a silo close right here, somewhere around here that's a silo. And then he pushes in with a half army of light units. So he's kind of taking the experiment of light tank Red Devil, a kind of rush on this map, and he's experimented with that. He did play a lot of got sort of games practicing with this opening move, and he's going to try and pull it off in a tournament. So
Unit factory.
got some balls on him.
Building underway. Building complete. Building complete. Recycler here. Construction started.
Okay, so it's worth mentioning for anyone who's kind of curious, what do you do when you attack? Like, okay, you go in, you get close, and you fire. You click the mouse and you press W. But what do you do with your wingmen? There's actually a lot to mention. There's a lot to do. There's a lot you can do to improve your chances of winning. Let's go back. Let's take a look.
Started. I'm on it.
Okay, so let's break it down step by step.
Unit
First thing HF has done is he spotted what is there. So he sees it's a silo. There's a scout.
complete. Unit.
There opened he opened the attack list, attack menu,
I'm on it.
doing what you'd call an attack scan, which is where you just look to see what's there. So we've got tank, scout. We can guarantee that tank is the player because it's so early in the game. He's got another scout kind of behind, and he's got his construction silo. So GrizzlyOne has opened kind of for anti-rush. He's opened with 2 scouts
Unit factory here.
because HF went as the Black Dogs on Moon War, and obviously there's a 99% chance you're going to get rushed or attacked early.
Underway. Building
So
complete.
HF knows, he knows what GrizzlyOne has
Unit factory.
from the attack scan to get intel. He targets the player tank,
Building underway. Building complete.
then I think he orders his offensives. Oh, he did it through the attack menu. Okay, hang on.
Right here. Mission started. I'm on it.
So
Unit complete.
he selects all offensives, so Control 1 or F1 if it's a hotkey, and he has pressed number 1 to attack the player.
Unit factory here. Building underway. Building complete.
So now his AI, HyperFighter AI, is going to swarm the player tank,
Building complete.
which gives HF the opening to deal with the silo and the constructor to get the key target. This is the key target, you want to get rid of this. This is the reason why you push, is to get rid of this silo and the constructor.
Recycler here. Construction started. Protecting unit. I'm on it. Unit complete. Building complete. Protecting unit.
And GrizzlyOne has responded in turn in kind by sending his scouts onto the player tank,
Build. Yes, sir.
onto HF's player tank.
I'm on it. Recycler here. Construction started. Construction.
So they both did the same thing, send AI on the player tank. It's a very strong move. HF got ejected for it, and GrizzlyOne is also about to get ejected for it. So that works well. Potential for a snipe there. Obviously, in the moment you don't spot these things, but that was the player going past.
Building complete. Guarding friendly. Unit complete.
Now, ask yourself, in this situation, who is benefiting more? Who does this favour more? Is it HF because he's up close and he's winning the fight, it seems, because he's still got units, and GrizzlyOne's out of the fight, but he's still in because he's with his units? Or is it GrizzlyOne? Well, the answer is GrizzlyOne because the scrap is falling here, He's still got some stuff here. You know for a fact that he's building units right now. You know, as soon as you're GrizzlyOne up there and you see HyperFighter flying down the mid with half an army of light units, you know this is a rush. So your first instinct should be quickly build offensives. Scout, tank, rocket tank, whatever. Instant 5-5-6-1 and get them to follow you up. Call them into the fight. When you build a unit, don't give it an attack order for the base. Give it a follow order. Let it get close to you and then give it the attack or whatever you want it to do. Because when they're on attack, they drive slower until they are in range to fire. Right, so just kicking the Red Devil.
Watching your ass.
He does not have the firepower to finish this rush or to really get anything out of it.
Engaging.
So GrizzlyOne has already kind of won. He's won that battle because he has enough units here to finish off what HF's got, and he will lose units here. There is actually one way that HyperFighter can win, or sort of, I guess you say, get the upper hand in this situation, in this decision, is that mid is completely, you know, GrizzlyOne's not in mid, he's dealing with HF. So HF scavs could all come through, they can all gather mid. It's sort of like a distraction tactic. If you're up in the grill of the opponent near his base, he can't stop you from scavenging mid. That's a pretty good compromise. So yeah, his scavs are going to go out and get all that, which is nice. Although he would need a silo here if he wants to get all of this.
Yes, sir.
So pilots are down to 0. Get the barracks. Backup has arrived.
Unit complete.
Pretty rough scrap kind of feed, but it's not unrecoverable.
Watching your ass.
It's not the end of the world. It's just a minor setback because obviously, you know, he's still got the scrap here to get. The left and right pockets or the craters are still available.
Razor here. Protecting. Yes, sir. Protecting the plot.
I guess a bit of an accident here with this unit. Obviously, 99 times out of 100, you don't want to have an offensive unit going forward on its own, but it can happen. Especially if you get out of your tank, switch tank, and then order your units to follow you, through F key, because the tank that you exited and then switched, that tank is not going to be in your F group when a pilot gets in. That can be a common reason why you lose a unit, but that's not the case here.
Recycler here. Construction started. Unit factory here. Building underway. Fighting enemy. Ready to build.
So GrizzlyOne is at full strength,
Yes, sir. No can do. Building.
which means that the early aggression from HyperFighter didn't really do anything.
Engaging. Unit factory here.
Nothing was really achieved.
Building complete.
And this is just looking terrible now because GrizzlyOne's at full strength. And HyperFighter is, you know, he's down on pilots. And he's down on units from the rush. And he's just taken a nasty eject. So this game is, okay, 16. It's about 4 minutes in. And HF has already kind of given up the strategy in terms of winning through resources and units. He's given up. It's done. He's lost. He's lost that side of it. But obviously, because, you know, this is an RTS FPS hybrid, there's the other side to the game, which is snipe. You can snipe to win, which is what he's going to do now. So 4 minutes in, he's already switched to plan B, which is snipe my way to victory. Why? GrizzlyOne's at full strength. HF is at effectively no strength. On a map like this that's so small, with such a small amount of scrap, if you lose a fight like that and you lose so many offensives, you lose all that mid control, it's effectively game over. This is kind of funny, but completely unfortunate for GrizzlyOne. He didn't do anything wrong. He takes a sniper hit, he takes a sniper tag, not enough info to determine where it came from. I think HF hopped here, but it would be probably just outside of audible range, or at least very, very quiet. It's hard to kind of hear it from. Yeah, that would be really on the limit of audible distance. Yeah, you can't really expect GrizzlyOne to notice him here. We just took a stray shot, and he's busy trying to get home. Also, the scab sound effects are going to be quite loud that close.
Searching for targets.
But then HF does something really quite spectacular for a tournament game. Incredible to watch this live, which we a load of us did.
Under attack.
And also really infuriating. Alright, so you know, put yourself in the mindset. You've just lost Grand Theft because of what felt like a massive CCA steamroll, and you had like no scrap, and you know, what the hell am I meant to do? In the moment, it's really hard to think, okay, it's because I didn't get enough resources. You're not thinking about that right now. You're thinking about, oh shit, it's game 2, it's a best of 3, it's a match point, I've got to win this. We're in this game. HF's rush has failed. GrizzlyOne has mid, he's got on top, he survived that rush, he's in a great situation now. He's basically already won the game. But then HF proceeds to do this.
I need power. Going for geyser. Recycler here. Moving out. Where's the power?
Alright, so there's the first snipe.
Damage critical.
Engaging.
Doesn't really matter too much if he dies,
Building underway.
because HyperFighter has a new,
Where's the power?
he's got a new strategy in his head now. He's got the plan B in his head,
Building unit.
which is, I'm not playing for the scrap, I'm not playing for the recycler, I'm playing for the lives.
Where's the power? The power. Get
Under attack.
engaging.
Let's quickly discuss what should GrizzlyOne do, or what could he do to prevent things from happening in the way that they're about to. Consider the fact that you've already won, because HF has no mid presence. Consider the fact that he just full committed to a snipe on you by standing still in your area and waiting for you. If someone is doing that, you can be really, really sure that they've effectively given up the strat, because that's time wasted that he could be getting silos up, getting units up, rebuilding, recovering. He's not recovering. He's committing to sniping you. Because GrizzlyOne didn't spot him in the moment, but he would have seen HF on the kind of def cam, like after he'd been sniped. And he would see that that wasn't an air snipe, that wasn't a long shot, it was right there at his outpost. That should give you the intel that this player has given up stratting, he's just trying to snipe now. So what do? Well, what you do is you think, I'm going to have the massive majority of scrap, so I'm going to have the resources to win. I don't need to fight over resources anymore. They're going to have very few, so that means they're probably not going to have howitzers, so I can get howitzers ready. It means that maybe get in a walker, get yourself comsat, get satellite. One good thing you can do is to spot the player over here in the tank and target the player with AI. So even if that AI dies, it doesn't matter, right? Because you've got a huge scrap advantage. Just send a scout on it, and then you can always track where the player is. He can't go for a snipe on you unless he kills the scout first. So once your scout dies, the one that's sort of chasing after him, hunting him, then you know, okay, now snipes are back on the menu. But until that happens, he's going to be busy fighting a scout, and you're going to have information on where he is.
Construction started. Building.
So let your AI fight. Maybe upgrade your AI. Maybe give them SP. Maybe give your scouts tag cannon. Get something out of your scrap.
Building complete. Engaging.
Slowly build into mid. Let your offensives go forward. Recover what they lose, what you lose from them. Rinse and repeat. Keep the pressure up. There is obviously a really big risk of feeding if you do this. If you give up trying to fight and you just let the AI go forward because you're afraid of being sniped. But that's not guaranteed to happen. If you've got a full army and they can't afford units because they're broke, they're not going to be able to clear your army.
Watching your ass.
They just simply can't.
Defeated.
Construction
You can just
started.
overwhelm through AI.
Protecting unit.
If they're this broke, specifically if they are this broke, you can overwhelm through AI. But you can see GrizzlyOne is still fighting in the field. 2 lives. At 2 lives, it's when you want to think about starting to avoid
Warning.
going up close.
Damage critical. Unit
And then at 1 life, you don't want to go close at all. Especially if you're playing against someone who likes to snipe.
offensive unit lost. Offensive unit lost. Offensive unit lost.
So he's, HF is completely out of the game. He's got nothing. He has nothing, and GrizzlyOne can see this. He can tell. He can see that HyperFighter just lost a wave of units. He just got ejected again. He can see on radar that he's not got anything in mid. He can see visually that there's no silos. So he knows he's won.
Offensive unit lost.
So how about we just get back and play, kind of keep ourselves safe in the fight, and win through satellite, win through 10 howitzers on the recycler, win through 10 SP tanks going into the base.
Pilot
Recycler here.
defeated.
Constructions.
And there's Snipe 2. Again, HyperFighter is just committing completely to sitting in the open, landing the shot, all or nothing, do or die,
Building complete.
death or dishonor. I will snipe you or I will die trying. Watch this decision making. GrizzlyOne down to 1 life. GrizzlyOne spawn is right here. There he goes, he just bailed out because he's afraid of the snipe. Good decision. He dies. This is the point where HS's thinking, okay, I've lost game 2, never mind, game 3 is coming up.
Defeated.
This is the point where GrizzlyOne needs to be like, now, if previously what I said applies to having 2 lives, when you have 1 life, you need to change your tactics, your strategy. You need to change the game plan now. 1 life, you've won the strat, now you've got to finish it safely. One of the best decisions is just get straight into a walker as soon as you win the game. And when I say win the game, I mean breaking their economy. As soon as you've broke their economy and you know that they're money fucked, you can get in a walker and you can finish it that way.
Construction started.
If they lose a recycler, equally. If you're down to 1 life as well, you should consider getting in a walker and finishing it like that.
Ready to move.
Getting in a walker is a problem because if a player Rambos you and like thumps you or sends hornets at you, it's really easy to eject you. Then they're going to eject with you on 1 life and take the air snipe duel to win the game. So what you can also do is you can get in a turret, and it's harder to tell which turret is you if you know how to keep it discreet. You could get in a what I sometimes do is get in a mine layer, which is already hard to snipe because people don't know where the dot is on the mine layer. And then I get myself red field because the mine layer has effectively infinite ammo. I get red field, I turn that on, and I finish the game in a mine layer with red field because it's really hard to snipe that unit because it has really good movement. It's really agile. It can like spin and fly, and it's like it can sort of go forward and back and change its motion really easily. It can jump really high. So you can finish the game. Actually, I don't think it can jump, can it? Oh, never mind, but it's still agile. Finish it like that, and at least then you can lead your units. You can have follow close with your units. If you're in a walker follow close, all your stuff's going to be behind you, or sort of sit. If you turn and face away, so the AI is in front, they can just come around the other side.
I need power.
So
Going for guys.
there are alternatives to playing in a walker.
I need power.
Just got to think about it.
Building complete. I need power.
I mean, at this point, what he could do is just get sat select all of his offensives, all 10, and just click on the recycler and just hide in his base. And it will either work and he'll kill the recycler, or he would have done a massive feed. But if your resources are so good because you've won the game, you can just send in another wave and a day wrecker and then another wave, and it's likely that eventually it's all going to come crashing down for HF because he has no resources really. He can't really build defenses. He's going to run out of ammo. He's going to run out of pilots. Something's going to happen. Something's going to break him. You can just send shit in there and keep the pressure up.
Recycler here. Construction started. Unit factory here. Building underway. Factory here. Construction. On it. Unit factory here. Building underway.
So in terms of resources, it's not truly game over for HF because he can take this, the east crater, and the northeast scrap is still not taken. So together, let's say 30, 40, maybe 50. So half an army. But it's not enough to win the resource game. So really, yeah, the only option for HF, since 4 minutes in, is to snipe to win. You can see that GrizzlyOne's given up mid control for now, because he's obviously thinking about how he's going to end it, given the 1 life situation.
Building underway. Recycler here. Construction. Building complete. Ready to roll. Where's the power? Moving out. In transit.
So our day wrecker is launched.
Getting power. Ready for action. Bring 'em on. APC here. Locked and loaded. Ah, fresh air.
So it is a good idea to give up territory when you have all the resources. You don't need the territory, but there is scrap that he can take. If GrizzlyOne completely gives up mid, HyperFighter can take this scrap. He can destroy GrizzlyOne's buildings and take scrap from that, and then potentially reach 10 offensives, and then he's back in the game.
Unit factory here.
So what should be happening now is that GrizzlyOne's army should be out here fighting, stopping him from taking anything, while he himself stays back and
Building underway.
tries to keep a low profile because of snipe.
Fighting enemy. Falling in. Standing guard. I'm on it. Unit factory complete. I'm on it. Unit complete.
Okay, so the walkers are out. You know, this should be game over. This would be game over in the majority of cases.
APC here. Locked
You know, how do you expect to eject? You've only got SP and procs in the stock B-Dog tank. You've not really got the weapons for it.
APC here. Locked and loaded. APC here. Locked and loaded. Locked and loaded.
And you see GrizzlyOne still in the tank, which is just taking a risk when you wouldn't need to take it. If GrizzlyOne was anywhere else but here now, he would have won the game, because he's got the army to eject HF and to destroy whatever he's got. Couple bombers, nothing really to make a play with. HyperFighter gets what seems like a horrible eject, but actually is the perfect eject,
Unit lost.
because GrizzlyOne got ejected as well, and here he is.
Offensive unit lost.
Last shot.
Offensive unit.
There it is. What a way to end it. And because he's going up a hill, he can't really gain momentum up the hill by hopping. It's just a case of walking. So a really horrible bad luck situation. The fact that HyperFighter gets this eject in a thump roll and goes this way back towards his spawn. I think that's him there. GrizzlyOne also gets ejected himself
Offensive
at about the same time.
lost. Offensive
I think he sees it. Yep, HF sees it. and he's in the perfect position, the perfect spot to capitalize
Offensive unit
on
lost.
effectively a random
Offensive
kind of chance
unit
eject that just went perfectly for him. But yeah, completely avoidable. Completely avoidable. He has the army. GrizzlyOne has the army to
warning.
destroy anything that HF tries.
Unit lost.
You know,
Offensive
Building
unit
complete.
his AI has won this for him. They've won the game for him. But because he was out here, he got ejected at the same time, he has
offensive unit
ended up in a position where he can get sniped. I mean, he could have got ejected any other direction. Same for HF. Any other direction. Just the fact that they both got ejected the same direction at the same time just meant it ended like this. But completely avoidable if GrizzlyOne was anywhere else but here. Don't need to be fighting here. Yeah, you might lose a load of stuff, but you can get it back because you've got the resources to spam 10 offensives. He can only get 5 max, and he's got to play it perfectly not to lose them. You can overwhelm, so you do not need to take that risk. But shit happens.
offensive unit lost. Offensive unit
Alright, so that was that. That's the best of 3 over. So that would put HF into, I think, winners bracket, GrizzlyOne in losers bracket. GrizzlyOne won his next 2 or 3 series. He got through pretty far. HF went down to losers bracket, I think, from VT, and then they met in one of the last losers finals. One of the last final. Bloody hell! One of the last losers matches before the losers final. And GrizzlyOne was successful there. He did beat him in the best of 3. 3-1, I believe. So the redemption was complete. He did redeem himself. He did a good job. But yeah, that's what happened in one of the, I guess you could say, the highlight or the craziest moments of this 2023 tournament was this series. So there you go. That's what happened. That's why he lost, ladies and gentlemen. That is why GrizzlyOne lost that series. So yeah, not to shame, not to mock, just to break it down and explain. Hopefully help some people along the way with how to deal with certain situations and how to process the reasons why you lost, when it can seem impossible to understand what the hell happened. Well, if you have the luxury of being able to look back on it, you can spot, you can see little decisions, bits of scrap here and there, placement of certain objects, placement of certain units, that can lead to it. Small things add up. Alright, so I will end it there. Thank you very much.